Welcome to Melt. I'm Suresh Venkat. Now, over the last few months, Cola brand Pepsi has been actively marketing its new brand proposition. The Rise Up Baby campaign features new brand ambassadors, draws on emerging tech, and aims to keep the brand alive in mainstream pop culture. To know more, we are in conversation with Saumya Rathor, category lead Pepsi Cola at PepsiCo India. Why does Pepsi aim to be a culture curator? Let's find out as we get ready to melt with Saumya Rathor. Saumya Rathor, welcome to Melt.
Thank you so much.
Let's talk about your latest campaign, Rise Up Baby, that features Samantha Ruth Prabhu.
Okay.
What exactly is Pepsi saying about changing gender dynamics?
I think it's the third part of the trilogy that we're really doing. So our campaign began this year with this whole philosophy of Rise Up Baby. And the entire philosophy was actually, completely on this insular point that consumers in India are constantly judged, whether they're judged for the clothes that they wear or whether they're judged for their professional choices. But there is a huge degree of judgment that is there in the lives of consumers. And in our, three parts of the campaign, the first part was kind of brought alive with Ranveer, the second was with Yash, and the third one is the latest one that you're talking about, which is with Samantha. When we were conceptualizing this campaign, we realized that in the beverage category, constantly use women as desire objects. So this is the first time where we're taking a very powerful female narrative and talking about the judgments that women faced. And this entire campaign actually is based with a lot of consumer and cultural insights. And we found out that the three big buckets of judgments for women in India is, the first one is of course marriage. Everyone wants to know when a girl is getting married. Right from the time when she turns 18, everyone's like, okay, when is she getting married, right? And so that's something that we take on. And the other two things that we take on in the same ad is, of course, the second one is that what time do women come home? Everyone constantly judges that, right? Or that if they come at 6 o'clock, if they come at 10 o'clock in the night or 12 o'clock in the night, everyone's like, okay, what were they doing outside, right? So that's the second judgment that we are tackling. The third one also is something that I really feel passionate about, which is that society ascribes certain roles for men and women. So society expects men to do certain roles, but when a woman is doing that role, everyone's like, okay, will she be able to do it or not, right? So I think this whole campaign with Samantha was a testimony to the fact that we are here to shatter gender stereotypes, and I really hope the campaign does that for us.
Other than the fact that they're all big movie stars, Ranveer, Yash, and Samantha, what unites them as Pepsi ambassadors?
I think they are unapologetically themselves, all three of them. And I think they completely stand true to the philosophy of Rise Up. Ranveer, I feel, is one of the most judged Bollywood celebs, right? Like he's constantly judged for clothes. Like everyone's constantly saying, okay, what is Ranveer?
In his case, it's a valid question. What is he wearing?
But the fact is that he still goes around living his life the way he really wants to, right? Which I love about him. And I think he's so unapologetic about that. And I think with Yash as well, I think, he comes from a small town in Karnataka. And his stardom really defies the notion of boundaries. And so I think he's very, very, self-made. And I feel that was one aspect that we really liked and that really brought alive the Rise Up philosophy. And I think Samantha is a constant warrior. I think she's tackled a lot of judgments in her life and she's constantly...
And quite flamboyantly on screen
very
as well.
flamboyantly as well. And I think that her choices reflect that. And I couldn't be more proud of the people that we've signed on the brand.
Two of those three stars are South Indian stars. Is that a signal that Pepsi is sending the rise of the South?
It's the rise of India, genuinely. I think, all the three celebs have a niche of their own. And we are really, actually tying up with them for their personalities and, of course, their stardom. But for us, it's really, we don't discriminate between, different aspects of the region in India.
As a South Indian myself, I'm all for
Even I'm a South Indian, actually. So yeah.
All for more South Indian brand ambassadors. But Saumya, how exactly do you define Pepsi's consumer today? The consumer definition changes over the years.
Yeah.
What is the current definition?
Pepsi is the spirit of youth in a bottle. And I think we constantly have our finger on the pulse of this generation. And I go back to what I said earlier, that the consumers these days are very confident, they're very effortless, and they're very irreverent. So that's how I would define the Pepsi consumer.
That answers my next question. The one-line manifesto that defines Pepsi as a brand is youth in a bottle?
Is youth in a bottle, but I would add a line saying that right now, given the campaign that we're doing, I think it's all about that the world might pull you down, but you'll rise up like the Pepsi bubble. Because actually an interesting fact is that when you open a Pepsi bubble, and of course gravity exists in the world, But the only thing that rises against gravity is that Pepsi bubble. So you have to just, you'll just rise up against whatever odds that life throws
Okay,
at
so I'm
you.
52.
Yeah.
Does that mean Pepsi is not for me if it's
Of
youth
course
in a
it is.
bottle? Or
No, of course it's for you, because I genuinely feel this, Suresh, that this insight of judgment transcends age, and
Okay.
it transcends any kind of demographic segmentation, because at every point in our life, and I mean it with a lot of genuity, that when we were at school we were probably judged for something, right? But now we are working, and I think we constantly face that judgment still. So I feel that this is an insight which is quite, it's fungible in the sense that it appeals to everyone. It'll appeal to a housewife because she may have been judged for, by the in-laws, or with, like people in the society.
Okay.
It might be applicable to someone who's working. People will judge the girl that, I don't know how she's risen, or, does she have the merit or the competence to do what she's doing.
Okay.
So I feel that is genuinely an insight that would appeal to you as well, right? So
Okay. So Saumya, summer is here and it's a sweltering summer.
yeah.
While the rest of the country groans and saying climate change and hot, do marketers like you cheer when summer is really hot?
So we are a beverage brand, and definitely weather plays a huge role for us. But I think our endeavor from a business perspective is to just make sure that we are present all year, right? Like for us, it's all about building occasions and being there from a memory perspective for consumers. So for us, it's I think we are in an endeavor to really, straighten that spike, so to see.
Okay, we just spoke about Yash and Ranveer and Samantha. Now, it's a fact that celebrities switch allegiances.
Yeah.
Right? They are brand ambassadors. They promote your drink one day and they promote a rival's drink the next day.
Yeah.
As a marketer, how does this not bother you that they endorsed your exact rival maybe a few months ago or a few years ago?
I think it's a question that I've been posed a lot, Suresh. And my answer always is that it's not, India is a country, firstly, that loves stars. So it's really not about, whether they were endorsing a particular product or not, right? For me, it's generally about how are you using that star? And I feel that the way you use the star makes the star a lot more entrenched in the mind of the consumer. So how authentically you can use him, how credibly you can, have a brand plus the celeb story. Because for us, celebs are there to, further our narrative, right? So it's never a case of the celeb really overshadowing the brand. It's about how the celeb and the brand really come together to create something which would not be possible without the two of them, right? And I feel that the campaigns that we've done this year, and I know the person that you're really alluding to, right, in our roster.
All of them pretty much have gone back and forth. I'm not referring to any one particular
Absolutely.
star.
But yeah, but I feel that the way we've used them is very, very different than what you would have seen them being used as, right? So I feel that with Ranveer coming in on the brand with the Pepsi, he kind of launched the Rise Up Baby campaign. Nobody had seen Ranveer like that. And when people saw that, they didn't say that, oh, what was Ranveer endorsing earlier? They felt that, okay, this is the philosophy that the brand is saying.
And that grabs the attention.
And that grabs the attention. And they're like, yeah, there's no... And actually, I got a lot of comments saying that nobody else could have done the role better than Ranveer. Or nobody else could have done the Yash film better than Yash. And that, I think, is a huge compliment to us.
Let me ask you the reverse question. If you were in charge of marketing celebs, would you advise them to be wary of influencers, that their influence is being eroded by the rise of the influencer?
I don't think so. I'm not in agreement with that.
Celebs are celebs and influencers.
Celebs are celebs right now. Because if that was really the case, I would have been seeing a loss of followership that they had on Instagram. And that's not happening. That's rising day by day. People are still obsessed about celebs. And of course, influencers play their role. And I feel that they are also part of their creator economy. And I really value what they're doing there, because that's also really, creating a different kind of industry for themselves as well as for, all the marketing people. But I feel celebs are celebs in India.
Saumya, last year the brand Pepsi pegged personalization as its key marketing strategy. Am I right? How did that play out? What were the learnings from there?
I think from a personalization perspective, I always kind of, decouple personalization into two halves. One is personalization from a cultural and insight perspective, right? And I generally feel that the personalization for me is what is that human truth that exists in India for consumers, and how is the brand really playing to that human truth, right? Because that is very personal. The insight is very personal. And of course, the other standard definition of personalization is with data. You have cohorts, and, how do you really appeal to that from a cohort perspective, right? So I think that's really there. But I think the bigger thing for me really is figuring out that human truth and going deep with consumers and understanding and figuring out whether that insight kind of resonates with them and whether that's empathetic for them, right?
With all these reams and reams of data, does it make a marketer's decision more easy or more difficult?
I fundamentally feel, Suresh, that marketing is both art and science.
Okay.
You keep looking at that data and you keep strengthening your gut. But at the end of the day, you have to, like, no AI can take a call for you, right? Like, you can't go to ChatBD and say that, this is what these are my
ChatGPT,
problems.
how do I market Pepsi?
How do I market Pepsi? Or, I mean, you'll get an answer for that because, I have done that. But the point is that you can't ask them to decide for you. So I think the data helps you strengthen your gut, but eventually it has to be how closely do you really feel your consumer from an emotion perspective. So I think it's really about combining emotion with technology, and I really believe that it's emotech, right? You have to have empathy behind the
Okay. I like the
data.
term emotech. Do they teach that in B school?
No, I think
How
I just
to
made it
how
up
to
right now.
handle emotech?
No,
I
they
think
don't.
that could be the next frontier after Martech and this tech and that tech.
Maybe I should write a book on it.
Emotech, I think if you ever want to start a startup,
Yeah.
Saumya, we couldn't have gone 5 feet last year without hearing the words NFT. And Pepsi experimented
Yeah,
with
we
NFTs.
did.
How did that experiment turn out?
I loved it because I'm a big believer of experimentation. I feel that as marketers, you need to be constantly curious about the world that you live in. And every experiment that you do comes with, a lot of learnings. And I feel that NFT is still something that India doesn't understand so well. And we had a blast trying to, work with an artist who was actually based out of Europe, but she created these beautiful NFTs for us because NFT is essentially art, right? Fundamentally, if a brand is playing in that space, they have to play it in a manner which is the strength of that platform, right? So we tied up with an artist, and we had these amazing designs, and of course we had a challenge to really bring awareness about what NFTs are, but I still feel it's in that nascent space.
So when do you as a brand decide to experiment or adopt a technology? When is too soon and when is too late? First mover advantage or wait till it's established?
I think it's always first mover. At least as a brand, which is Pepsi, which is the culture curator, we have constantly been at the cutting edge of technology. First mover.
Early experimenter, early adopter?
Early experimenter, learn, and then, try to make sense of it and then scale, because there's no fun in, trying something which everyone else has tried and then you just,
And this whole true for technologies like AR, VR, blockchain,
absolutely,
generative text,
absolutely,
all of that?
absolutely. I think you have to catch the attention in the beginning, and then try to build that platform together, from a brand perspective as well.
Would it be fair to say that one of the key parts of your job is to keep the term Pepsi and the term Cola alive in popular culture?
The part of my job is to make Pepsi part of culture,
Okay.
but it's not part of wars.
Okay.
I think we are not so external focused from a competition perspective. But yeah, I need Pepsi to be at the cutting edge of culture. And we've constantly kind of, done that. Like we did a Money Heist collaboration, which was the talk of the town. We did deep fake with Salman last year. We were the first brand in India to do to use the deep fake technology. And I think it, was completely then, emboldened in the mind of the consumers because they hadn't seen Salman in the Prem Avatar at all. So I think we've constantly done that. So my job is to definitely make sure that people don't forget Pepsi.
So Pepsi is culture curator.
Pepsi is the culture curator.
That's the definition that
Yeah.
you would like to work with.
Yeah.
And youth in a bottle. I'll remember those two things. Right. Now let's talk about your logo.
Yeah.
Quite frankly, Saumya, Pepsi seems obsessed with its logo. You change forth, you change back, you go here, go there, back to blue, back to red. There's this constant redefinition of logo, and this comes at a cost. Right? There are millions and millions of things that need to change every time
Yeah.
you change the logo. But how do you assess the impact of a logo change? Because you're going to have to spend a lot of money to change it.
Logo change is so critical from a packaging perspective, because I feel the biggest equity that we have from a brand is our packs.
Mhm.
So we rightly are obsessed about our logos, right? And about how Pepsi is really showing up on shelf and how Pepsi is showing up across all consumer touch points. And I love the new logo. I feel it has got that hint of nostalgia. It's got the hint of that retro design. And I feel that Pepsi is right, bold and center from a pack perspective. So I kind of really, I'm looking forward to actually, seeing how it really unfolds in the months to come.
And what's the thinking behind this retro nostalgia? Is that the zeitgeist of the current era?
I think it is the zeitgeist. I feel that there's a lot of comfort that comes with nostalgia. And but the thing is that you have to be careful about who are you nostalgic towards, right? Like Gen Z may not think of it as nostalgia, but we might think of it as nostalgia, right? Because for us, that's happened in our lifetimes. It may not have happened in the lifetimes of the Gen Z consumer. So for me, nostalgia is always important from the lens that you're really seeing. I feel that it's about retro is cool for the Gen Z consumers. So the way you kind of bring that alive for specifically Gen Z consumers is when you tie nostalgia with emotion, and when you tie nostalgia with technology, that's when it really comes to life for consumers.
Tell us a little more about merchandising, because this logo is going to appear on a lot of merchandise. You spoke about NFTs a little while ago. How big is merchandising as part of Pepsi's marketing?
It's
let's say,
massive for us,
strategy?
Suresh, actually. We did a fashion campaign last year where we were bringing alive Pepsi Black, and we tied up with Human, which is a very good streetwear label. And for us, fashion is a form of self-expression. And like I said, Pepsi is the spirit of youth in a bottle, and we constantly believe that the youth should really express themselves the way they really want to express themselves. And fashion is a symbol of that. And we will always be uh, always on the runways with our logos.
Let's talk about the name Pepsi Black.
Yeah.
Right? 10 years from now, do you think your entire portfolio will be zero sugar, or most of it will be zero sugar?
I think it's a forward-looking statement, but I feel that as a company, we'll always offer options for consumers. So we'll always have products which are good for you, which are fun for you, and I think that's where we will always make sure that the consumers who want sugar will get those products, but the consumers who actually want a product which is better for them or which is good for them, we'll have that optionality for them.
So different products for different consumers
Yeah.
in different need
In
states?
different need states, absolutely.
And do you see the sugar, no sugar thing as an urban, non-urban divide in India?
I feel like right now it's a very mega city out kind of a category. But I also feel that as a marketer and as someone who's responsible for building that category, you want that to actually trickle down to different parts of the country. But yeah, as of now, it's more mega city out.
So when it comes to things like sugar or mega cities or brand ambassador or logo choices, what kind of metrics do you use to judge the effectiveness of your marketing decisions?
I think the first big metric for us is a very cliched one, is your growth, is the volume that you're driving, right?
That's simple enough to
That's
understand.
simple enough to understand. So more people are, buying your drink or consuming your drink, that that's working, right? The other metrics that are important for us is from a the brand health perspective. Does the brand stand for certain key imagery attributes? So does the brand stand for key equity attributes? So that becomes really important for us. Yeah, so I think those two are the big buckets from a metric perspective. But there's also from a culture curator point of view, I think what's important is how much is the brand in conversations? How often are we really showing up in conversations? So I think that's also an important metric.
And how
for
do
us.
you measure that? How do you listen to how often you're showing up in
So we have a
conversations?
very strong
Is
social listening team that's constantly.
Is it human based or is it
Right
AI
now,
based?
I think it's human based, but they have the tools to really, they are AI aided. So I think they work in conjunction. But I think that's important for us.
Once upon a time, somewhere we used to breathlessly debate the dynamics of the 30-second TV commercial. These days, it is the 4-minute film on digital.
Yeah.
What happened to commercials? Why did they become 3 and 4 minutes long? And what happened to storytelling?
I think that's a very good question because I've kind of debated that in my head, right? Of course, the way our media monies are allocated, a large percentage of it is TV out, right? And TV gives you that certain guardrail of 30-second, 20-second, because then
Oh, so it's expensive.
It's expensive, right? So I can't put all my marketing budget on TV if my edit is too long, right? So I think we definitely have a shorter edit strategy from a TV perspective. But I think consumers love stories, right? And consumers are constantly bombarded with so many entertainment options. And fundamentally, I think advertising in India used to be fun. I'm not too sure whether it used to be a lot of fun, and I feel
criticism.
I don't know whether it's criticism, but it's I think more like a standard for myself that I set. But I feel that it used to be a lot of fun. We used to look forward to ads. You wanted to see ads, but now when I see it from a TV perspective, I feel that it's becoming very, very and maybe rightly so, it's becoming very functional and in terms
You
of.
can use the word, it's boring.
Yeah, it's very boring. Like I'm not looking forward to it at all.
Yeah.
But what's happening on the other side, which is from a digital perspective, is that some of the brands are telling compelling stories because they've been, freed up from that mandate of 30-second or freed up from the mandate of 20-second, right? So I feel that it's the medium that you have to be really cognizant of. And if it's that medium, then what kind of a story are you telling in that medium, right? And I genuinely believe that consumers will gravitate towards good stories.
Okay. What's your media split these days? How do you split your media budgets?
From a mixed perspective, I think we are a very balanced brand. So we'll make sure that we are present adequately on TV, and we'll make sure that we are present adequately on digital, because we need to be unmissable in the mind of the consumer, right? Like we have to be unmissable, we have to be unskippable, and we have to be unforgettable, right? So we make sure that we completely encompass the consumer across the touch points.
And what occupies your time? Does digital occupy a lot of your time? Because that's also a currency that you're dealing with. You have limited amount of time to deal with these decisions.
We spend time on strategy, Suresh. That we spend time on making sure what we want to talk to consumers and how we want to talk to consumers. But I don't think that I am, like a majority of my time is just like, pivoted on digital.
digital
I don't think
alone.
that's not the, entry point.
Be all
The
and end
entry
all of-
point is always consumer insight, strategy, and then kind of, elevating it.
Okay, so my final question to you, and let's address the students of your alma mater and IIM Kozhikode. For potential marketers watching this show, how threatened should they feel about the rise of AI and its potential to take away the marketing function from human beings?
I think my advice to them would be just be curious about the world so that you're not blindsided by something new that's happening. But fundamentally, I feel that they need to stay true to themselves. And like my campaign says, tu tera kar, I would just tell them to you do you and be confident, be themselves, but become really competent at whatever they're really passionate about. And no technology will be able to touch them as long as they're competent and they're passionate and they believe in themselves.
All right, on that note, we conclude this interview. Saumya Rathor, thank you very much for
Thank
talking
you
to
so
us at
much.
Melt.
Thank you.
And with that, it's a wrap on this episode. You can follow Melt on social media. The handle is Ready to Melt, or simply log on to readytomelt.com. If you'd like to follow me, it's @Suvenk on Twitter. Till next week, goodbye and thanks for watching.